officer, okay? I'm very special. I'm here to keep you safe, okay? I'm not going to take too much of your time today, but we've just got some really important things to go over. It's just to keep you safe at all times when you're in the buildings, and if you follow these processes, you'll be fine, I promise, okay? Just to start off, like I said, I'm Jillian Smith. I'm the Health and Safety Officer. I'm part of a bigger team of facilities which is broken into maintenance and security. And some of the people that you'll get to know along the way, well, you will, a lot of them. But in charge is our Head of Facilities, Anita Fonch. And then Peter Keefe, who is in charge of the maintenance team. Those are two key people that you'll be talking to about any works you want to do or any questions you have or anything you want to do, building opening times, anything like that. Okay, so just to start off with, as you're all new to the buildings, just to tell you a little bit about your facilities here. So in this building, we have the toilets are located in the ground floor. If you take the small stairs by the blue door right opposite us and come down in the basement on the right-hand side. And you've also got the restaurant down there. Then if you take the first flight of stairs up, you get to the bar. And if you go all the way to the third floor, in number 34, so that's far back this side on the third floor is the men's toilet, and far back this side on the main staircase is the ladies'. And then we also have a toilet on the ground floor, so if you come to reception, just take the stairs down one way and come around the corner, and there's a toilet there as well. You have the library on the first floor as well, and then the coffee bar is also on the first floor. And then another important thing for any smokers, obviously due to the law, there's no smoking in the buildings at all. But there is a smoking allocation area on the bar terrace. So please, if you see the signs that say do not smoke here, do not smoke there because it is illegal. All right, I have a few things I want to talk to you about today to keep you safe, like I said, a bit of health and safety. And we start off, the most important is fire safety. Then I'm going to talk to you about COSH, which is hazardous substances and chemicals. These are things that you use every day, like spray paints and glues and things like that. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about electrical safety. Then we're going to talk about working at height, asbestos, manual handling, which is really important for your own bodies that you're taking care of, and then first aid and accident reporting. So if you follow all the rules for all the other things, you won't have to do the first aid reporting. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so how do fires occur? Okay, they need three elements to survive. They need heat, fuel, and oxygen. Heat is anything that you'd be using, like microwaves or kettles or irons in your areas. And what I say to you is you do have them in your areas and you are allowed to bring them in, but there are some allocated, especially in 60 Mall Street. And when you're using them, make sure that you don't switch something on and walk away and leave it. This was particularly a couple of years ago. Someone put in a pizza in the microwave and put it to cook for 20 minutes and walked away. And obviously when security came, it was nice and black and almost at the point of a fire. So please do be careful, don't walk away and use them properly. All right, then there's fuel. Fuel, to feed it, needs materials. So when you're creating your models, these will be like boards, woods, any papers that you're using, anything like that, can burn up nicely in a fire. It gives it a little, helps it get on there. Then we have oxygen. Now oxygen obviously you can't do much about, but what you can do is in your areas, like in here for instance, we have a fire door at the front and we have a fire door at the back. In your areas, if you keep your doors closed, what it does is it compartmentalizes the fire, which means it keeps it in that area. One, it starves the fire of oxygen, so it will lessen, extinguish it. And two, it stops it spreading from another area. So if people are trying to escape, they have more time to get out of the building. Otherwise, they'll be walking into, where the doors open, and their escape way will be filled with fire. All right, so some facts about fire. Okay, in less than 30 seconds, a small flame can completely get out of control and turn into a major fire. Fires can spread rapidly. In just 2 minutes, a fire can become life-threatening, and in 5 minutes, a building can be engulfed in flames. I'm just going to show you a short clip. You'll see it's a Christmas tree and how quickly it can go up. It is relevant to you guys because every year in DRL we do get a Christmas tree in 16 Memorial Street, so it's a good thing to think about. But also if you think about all the materials that you use when you're here that are highly flammable and how quickly they can actually catch alight. So you can see the countdown. This is 3 seconds. Black smoke will form. Black smoke, by the way, is the most deadly thing that kills people in fires, not actually burns. And as you can see, it's red, red hot. So what you would do in a situation like that is for oxygen goes down to the ground, so you want to keep low to the ground if you're ever in that situation. But you can see that smoke is thick and black. It will disorientate you, and it can sear your lungs. So that's why it's really important that you exit an area where a fire is, or if you hear the alarm, very quickly, because as you can see, there's not much time to get out. Does anybody know how to use a Mac? I can't get out of the window. Okay, cool, thank you so much. Right, so like I said, it produces toxins which can sear your lungs, and like I said, most deaths are caused by smoke, inhalation, and not by burns. Now, I took another clip from the Glasgow School of Art fire you might be familiar with, and I chose that for a reason because we're also a very creative environment, you know, a lot like an art school, and their fire was supposedly, they think, was caused by an overheating projector, and also there was foam, sheets of foam in the room as well, which are some of the things that you'd become familiar with, especially if you're making models in the DPL. So your materials, so think of the things that you're going to be using every day that could be flammable. So this was the fire in full force. As you can see, the smoke is very thick, and also think about the escape area. How would somebody escape from that? It's like all the way on the top floor. What if you were above that? So always think about that. That's why it's so essential that you evacuate the building really, really quickly. Alright, so if you discover a fire, we have in the Health and Safety Handbook on the Health and Safety webpage on the AA website, we have the whole health and safety policy, which will tell you about evacuation procedures, but also at all the front doors and back doors of the buildings, we have these evacuation procedures up on the walls. So if you're ever in doubt, they're there. Also, we have little red call point boxes, about so big, you'll see them in the corridors. And this is if you discover a fire, you press in the glass in the middle, it tells you to, you press it in, and it will set the alarm off. And you don't have to worry because there's instructions right above it which tell you exactly what to do. So you press the bell and then you evacuate immediately and call reception to let them know that they should call the fire brigade to come. Then you escape as quickly as possible, closing all the doors behind you if you can, if you remember to close the doors behind you, and then you would go to an assembly point. Now, for 32 to 39 Bedford Square, the front-facing buildings, these doors here, you go straight across the road, across where the Bedford Square Garden is, and you would wait there. If you happen to be in the back buildings facing Morwell Street, you would go across the road and on the corner of Morwell and Bailey Street. You can't miss it. It's right at the corner where the Pret is, and you'd wait down there. The reason why I've positioned it in that area is if you go directly across the road, there's a car park, so we don't want you getting hurt. And we say that you must stay there. The reason for staying there is because if your colleagues think that you're still in the building, we're risking a firefighter's life to go back and look for you. So you can imagine if he's gone to look for you and you're not there, that's more time in a fire that could, potentially cause him harm. All right, next one. So I said you can find a fire and then you press the red call point and evacuate. But if you hear the fire alarm, this is very important. Make yourself familiar with the sound of the alarm. If it's in continuous fire alarm mode, you evacuate the building immediately. So it's going to be one continuous sound. But then there's another time when it's a pre-alarm, and the pre-alarm is telling you that either building on either side of you, one of them is in full continuous fire alarm. You don't have to evacuate immediately. It's a slow pulsing noise, so you can hear the difference. But once that hits to continuous long sound, you leave the building. But I usually say that if you're unsure, you can evacuate anyway. It's the safest thing to do anyway. Okay? Again, reporting to the assembly point and waiting there until a fire brigade member or one of the fire marshals wearing the yellow jacket or security or anybody from facilities like me tell you that it's safe to go into the building. So you wait there until we tell you that it's safe. So when you're going through the exits, you'll notice if you have a look at the back door and above here at this front door, we have directional signs that tell you how to exit the building. So if you're unsure about something, just follow those signs down and they'll direct you straight out. Like I said, fire is very, it can kill in seconds. So it's very important. So besides the procedures that you can follow, there's also some precautions. And I have to stress this to you guys. Wear your fire doors in your area. Don't be putting models in front of them, because if you're thinking if something's happening and you're scared and you're trying to get out the building, you're going to trip over these things or you're not going to be able to get the door open in time. So don't put things in front of fire doors. And keep them closed at all times when you're in your studios, because again, like I said, it compartmentalizes the fire and makes the escape for the rest of the building safe. A very, very important point, which we've struggled a bit over our time here, is people using headphones. Now you can use them, of course, when you're in your unit spaces, but what I'm asking is that when you use them, make sure that the music's at a level that you can still hear the fire alarm. It's very important, because if you hear that fire alarm, you're going to evacuate in time and you're going to save your own life. If you can't turn the music down, at least have one ear exposed so that you can hear it. This is really, really important. Another very important thing is that people are going to be coming to check those areas. So security, facilities, fire marshals with the yellow bands on them are going to be coming into the areas and they're going to be telling you to evacuate. You do. You don't question them. You don't get up to get anything. You get out, because the more seconds you save, the better your chances of getting out safely. Okay? Okay, so our next subject is COSH, and it follows on from fire safety because part of it actually follows fire. It can, some of the substances that you use can cause fires as well and explosions, so they follow hand in hand. So these are anything that I was saying that you use in your area that can cause harm. So any substance or chemical that can cause harm, that's what a substance is. And you can see up there we have highly flammable, harmful, corrosive, explosive, toxic, irritant, oxidizing, and dangerous to the environment. As you can see from the picture above, if you see the yellow little cupboard in the corner there, we have these all in your unit spaces, and these are for you to put your chemicals in. That's a correct way of using it. You can see there are spray paints and other chemicals stored in there. These are fireproof boxes, so they're not, the chemicals can't react and cause an explosion in your area. So again, you're keeping yourselves safe by storing as much as you can in those cupboards. At the bottom you can see I've said there's certain chemicals that you can use in your space and certain chemicals that cannot be used. So for example, anything with a cross, which is an irritant and a harmful, or something with a flame is okay, which is flammable. They will be stored in your kosh yellow cupboards. They can be used in your area safely. Things like spray paints and resins may not be used in your unit area. These have to be used in the model shop. Talk to Tris in the model shop and he will sort you out. And like you can see from the bottom row, anything that's toxic with skull and bones, dangerous to the environment, corrosive, which is really nasty and will burn away your skin and eat into you, really nasty stuff. Explosive and oxidizing cannot be used in the studios. So it's just when you're using these things, make sure you're using them carefully, because anything that you buy has instructions on the back and it will tell you safe use, ways to use it. So use the manufacturer's instructions. Even the dilutions it tells you, follow those guidelines and then you won't have any problems. The other thing that's really important is wearing PPE. So you could wear gloves or a mask when you're using it. It will tell you what sort of thing you need to use. Make sure you use it and you don't get hurt. We actually had a student last year who was using latex, and it's not potentially harmful if you're using it in small amounts, but you do have to wear a mask. And he'd been using it for 2 days straight, very intensely, and he got very ill from it for a few weeks. It was making him feel very vomity and unwell. So do be careful when you're using stuff. Make sure that if it tells you to wear stuff that you are wearing it. It's your body. Please take care of it. The other really important thing when you're using hazardous substances, don't use different containers to put them in that don't have a name on it. Because if somebody comes after you and swallows it or anything like that, they could get really, really hurt. And ways that these chemicals can get into your body, we've got ingestion, which could be swallowed and cause damage on the inside of your body. Then we've got inhalation, so you could breathe the vapors in, and that can cause asthma if you're breathing in dust vapors or anything like that. And then we've got injection, which can get into any cuts or in your eyes. And then we've got absorption through the skin, which can cause dermatitis or irritation to the skin. So not very nice. Right, next, following on with the theme of fire safety, is electrical safety. So if you have a look at my pictures up here, you can see that the first picture, which is in one of the unit spaces, they're not using the socket correctly. If you overload it, first of all, someone's going to trip over that. It's going to cause a spark. They're going to get hurt. It's going to cause a spark and cause a fire. If it's overloaded with the wrong ampage, again, that's going to cause a fire. If you have a look at the other picture with the tick, we have special leads that extension leads that are rated to be able to handle those amounts of international, especially international adapters, because they can cause fires as well. So when you have an international adapter, do not put them into the main socket at any time. Always put them in an extension lead. The reason why I ask you to do this is basically if you're going to put it into a main socket, that's going to cut off the power to the whole area, or it's going to cause a major fire on that section. If you put in one of these rated leads, it's going to cut off the power, so it's going to stop the fire from spreading. So once you've done your inductions, you're going to have separate inductions with the workshops and the library, etc. Once you've had your induction with the workshop, you get to use their hand tools and their electrical tools. And they will provide you, if you ask them nicely, for an RCD, a residual circuit breaker. And basically this baby cuts the power so that the electrical current is cut off and it stops the fire from happening. Okay? And as you can see from the picture, there's a picture of the RCD, and on the other side, we actually have an example of one of the units that I went into, and obviously somebody had plugged straight into the socket, and you can see the burn marks. So that was very close to causing a fire. Again, like I was saying, if you follow the rules, extension leads cannot be there permanently. They can only be used for a short period of time, and you have to be careful, because if you have them trailing across the floor, someone's going to trip over that, especially if they need to get out of the building in a quick time. So do be careful where you use them. Also, before you use any electrical equipment or your leads or anything, have a good visual check that it's all in working order, that there's no cuts or fraying in the lead, and that it's working okay, because this can cause you harm, electrical shock if you plug it in and it's the wrong amp. So really check these things before you use them. Okay, next we come to working at height. This is also very important. Again, like I said, taking care of yourselves. Working at height is any distance above ground floor or floor level. So anything from a small kick stool to a little stool to a ladder. Now, we know that you need to use ladders in your work. We understand that we have different sizes dotted around the buildings. And because these are easily accessible from everyone, we can't regulate the use of them. So we do monthly safety checks on them to make sure that everything is intact and it's all okay. There is a tag on them to say this. But even though it says this, we can't take responsibility for you using them. So before you use them, you have to make sure that you open them out properly, check that all the rungs are there, that there's nothing caught in the rungs. It has the appropriate feet on it, so it needs plastic feet. And that if you've got a step ladder, for example, when you pull it out, that the hinges that pull out on the side are not bent, that they work properly and they don't get stiff. If you've got a ladder that's damaged in any way, don't use it. Please tell us, and then we can replace it with one that works, but don't use it because you could fall from it. So when using ladders, there's just a couple of things. When you're going up a ladder, to keep 3-point position, so that means that you've got 2 feet and an arm holding onto the ladder when you're going up, especially if you're carrying something. Try not to carry heavy things up ladders, but if you're carrying paint or anything like that, make sure you've got 3 points of contact so that you don't fall. No overreaching, because then you're going to fall. Don't put it near a door or anything like that, because if someone comes through the door, you're going to go flying, so we don't want you to get hurt. So it's really look at the ladder, make sure it's safe to use, it's fit for purpose, and you haven't put it anywhere that it could get knocked over, that it's level on the ground. And also remember, all the slides I'm showing you, there are copies of these in all of your unit spaces. Next we come to asbestos. This is really, really important because this is an old building. And we have to get any permission to do any works here from Heritage before we can do anything, because it is an old building and it's grade listed. And also what that means is, in the olden days, they used to use asbestos in things that they were doing. So you would have like rope ties that would go into the corners of windows to keep them in, paints and boards that they were putting up. Now we have a register in our office which tells you exactly where those locations are of what asbestos there is, and suspected places as well. So before you do any works, even if it's hanging a paper, please come speak to us first so that we can tell you if it's safe to do so or not, or we can even offer our help. You can see my numbers up there, 4008, or Anita on 4055, or Peter on 4056. Now, asbestos is not a very nice thing. If you happen to disturb it, and some of the fibers get into your lungs, it will cause serious illness. And I have been told that it takes 30 years before you know if it's safe. So if you've been surrounded by asbestos, it takes 30 years before they know if it's affected your body or not. So it's very, very serious. Manual handling. So this is very particular to your bodies and how you use things. So manual handling covers lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, or carrying. So basically it's using your body in the right way that you're not hurting your back. And it's very easy to hurt your back, and it's very hard to fix that. It's normally permanent. So what do? We have to think about things. So we have to ask ourselves a few questions when we're lifting things. Firstly, does it really need to go anywhere? Can it stay where it is? Can it be broken into different parts and lifted separately? Or can one of your colleagues help you? And if one of your colleagues can't help you, can maintenance help you take it where it needs to go? Okay, and also if you're going to be taking things around the buildings, make sure that the route that you're taking, there's nobody on it or it's safe to go up that way. Okay, so there's a few key things. I'm just going to go back to one of the slides. There's a few key things. So stop and think. Position your foot. Okay, so your feet are going to be one slightly in front of the other when you're positioning yourself. Makes you nice and steady like that. You're not going to be using your back muscles when you're lifting things. You're going to be using your leg muscles. So when you bend, you use your leg muscles, not your back. You get a good grip on a box. So your front hand on the corner at the front and your back hand here, so you've got a good grip. The best place in your body to carry things is your waist level. Now usually people can carry about 25 kgs comfortably, but we're all different, so you might want to take something smaller, or maybe you can carry something a little bit heavier. We're all individual, but just be aware of that. And the closer you keep things to your body, the better, because the further away, it's 100 times more pressure on your back. Okay. So avoid lifting from floor level or shoulder height if you can. And move smoothly. Don't jerk your body when you're moving something, because again, you're going to cause more problems to your body. If you have to push something, push it rather than pull, because that's going to cause less strain on your body as well. So remember, take care of your body. And again, these are in your little display cases in your rooms. So if you followed all of the rules and guidelines that I've given you, we get to accident reporting and first aid. And if you've done all the things right, you don't have to come to this point. But we have first aid boxes dotted around the buildings, mostly in lobby areas, so they're easily accessible. And a lot of stuff gets used in the reception area because people tend to go there most. That's perfectly fine. Now, all our receptionists are first aids. I'm a first aider, and the maintenance team are first aiders as well. But we have put their lists of other first aiders in your buildings as well. So if you have a look at them and you can find out who it is, it has their numbers and all their details. Also, we have what's called an accident book. So if you have an accident and you come to reception and they help you, they have to fill out an accident report, which you'll sign your address and your details and exactly what happened. Under RIDOR, we have to do this. It's law. We have to report. We have to write this stuff down. And then that would, under the Data Protection Act, would come into my office under lock and key. Now, why do we have to write this down? Why is it important? Well, one, if anything happens to you and you're away from school from 7 days, then we legally have to report it to the HSE. If something really bad happens to you, we've reported it, we've let them know that we know that something's happened to you, and then we have to keep them updated. Two, it helps us know that if something's unsafe in your area, that we can immediately take care of it and fix it, so we resolve that issue. And also we can track what kind of accidents are actually happening in the AA and what we can do to prevent them. And accident books aren't just in reception. We've got the kitchen has one, the workshop, and in 16 Wall Street Security Office they have one as well. Slips, trips, and falls. The single most cause of injuries at work is a slip, trip, or fall. So we ask you to be really careful when you're coming into the building. Sometimes the floors are a little bit wet, a little bit slippery. You'll see the caution signs. Just be careful when you're coming through. Again, if you don't have trailing leads on the floor, of course you're not going to trip over those. It'll be okay. And if you do see any spilt things, if you can report them so we can take care of them straight away. Finally, disability. If you have any special or further requirements, please don't hesitate to go to the registrar or the coordinators confidentially who are here to help. If you have any allergies or anything like that, please let us know and we'll be able to accommodate you. Thank you so much for your time. Okay.